Yeah, if they need anything, just let me know. It should be. What's that? If they need like vector, then we'll have to think it. It's vector.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to get started late. Just had my internet die right as we were getting started. So this is going to be a postmortem for the Berkshelf version 2 outage in connecting to the community site. Let me see if I can fix one little thing here, guys. Cool. All right. So I'm going to share my screen with the document that we normally go over. Okay. So we start every postmortem stating the following. This is a blameless postmortem. We will not focus on the past events as they pertain to could have or should have. All follow-up action items will be assigned to a team or individual before the end of the meeting. If an item is not going to be top priority, leaving the meeting, don't make it a follow-up item. Was the incident leader for the incident. So essentially what happened is users of Berkshelf version 2.x were unable to follow redirects to HTTPS from HTTP, and as a result, unable to do work. So I'm going to kind of start by walking us through a timeline. It doesn't mention it here, but I will say all times are in UTC. On the 7th at 1915, DNS was updated. Oh. Give me one second. Thank you to whoever just pointed that out. Okay, so now everybody can see the doc. Nods. Cool. So I'm going to walk through timeline. So starting in 1915, yesterday on the 7th, DNS was updated in Dyn, making community.opscode and cookbooks.opscode.com be served by supermarket. At 1940, we called the launch complete. This included a bunch of testing that we did after the fact. Continuing down at 1951, P. Corliss reported in Pound Berkshelf that there are issues with Berkshelf v2. The error he or she was seeing is chef response did not contain a JSON body. At 2017, the same issue was reported in Pound Chef. David or Dave confirmed the issue with P. Corliss is seeing at 2020. At 2031, Cubed confirmed the issue as well. At 2038, Adam reached out to myself and Jay Timmerman to look at the issue in Pound Chef. At 2040, we started a discussion I started a discussion with P. Corliss about the issue in Pound Berkshelf. For the record, pronouncing IRC Nix in like actual speak is a pain, or interesting at the very least. So continuing on, I'm not sure if a he or she, and we don't have good pronouns. So P. Corliss provides a gift.
They is an acceptable pronoun.
They, perfect, thank you. At 2042, they provided a gist of the issue. From the testing I had seen in the past, I made note that it looks like an HTTP to HTTPS uplift issue we had seen in testing. And at that point, being kind of new to this whole thing, reached out to Adam, who happened to be on IRC as well, responding to questions in Pound Chef, and said, hey, should I turn this into an incident and start all the things? And that's what I did. So at 2047, or rather 2048, we notified internally within Chef the ops, the dev, and community rooms that we were beginning an incident, and to come join the incident room as they felt they needed to. Scroll up. There. Maybe just 1 second over here. Okay. All right, continuing on. We notified the ops on call via HipChat that we were starting an incident as well at 2048. At 2050, I recapped the issue in the room just so that everybody understood what was going on. At 2051, Seth Fargo updated status.opscode.com, which as a note is now status.getchef.com as of this morning. At 2052, Seth Fargo dives into code to verify the issue from the code perspective. Shortly thereafter, at 2053, Joe Timmerman begins work on allowing cookbooks.opscode.com to pass through without the 301 to HTTPS. So just a brief background for those that haven't seen this before. We knew we had run into this issue with some of the Berkshelf API stuff. So we already had code in the cookbook to handle this. It just only supported a single domain. So Jay Timmerman worked to allow that domain as well to pass through. Jay Timmerman explained the fix prior to implementation at 2059. At 2103, we were also made aware that there were similar issues with on-premises Berkshelf API installs, essentially because the endpoint they were hitting was not doing the uplift properly, or wasn't serving HTTP rather. At 2104, Jay Timmerman posts the diffs of his change for review. At 2109, I updated the attributes for our staging environment to handle the cookbook changes. Jay Timmerman at 2109 also uploaded the version 2.4.2 of the supermarket cookbook to the chef server directly. At 2109, Jay Timmerman also uploads the changes to the supermarket app role, which is what we use to put the attributes in place to direct that cookbook. At 2110, we did a CCR, which is internal chef lingo for chef client run on the supermarket app in prod. At 2114, Jay Timmerman begins the process of attempting to install Berkshelf 2.0.17 for testing. I don't believe he was successful at getting that install done. At 2116, I confirmed that by using curl that calls to HTTP cookbooks.opscode.com passed through as HTTP as expected. At 2121, P. Corliss reports that things are working again. And my apologies, I apparently copy pasted that in the wrong order. I'll have to fix that real fast here. Okay, let's fix in the doc. Okay, so at 2119, I actually reached out to P. Corliss, Cubed, and David or Dave to confirm the fix. David or Dave responded that he was still seeing errors. This is a link to the pastebin of that error. At 2126, Icarus reports that https supermarket.getchef.com/cookbook/ant is white paging. At this point, this incident effectively takes a pause while focus switched away from this one over to supermarket as a whole being unresponsive. At 2150, status.opscode.com updated to reflect the ongoing issue. And At 2206, it was updated with a resolved status. Arguably, as we will discuss in this postmortem, it was not actually resolved, just partially. Continuing on, at 2358, Josh Glass reported in the incident room internally that he is still seeing issues with the Berkshelf v2 stuff. At, how do you say that? At midnight, 00, on the 8th, Ryan Cragen notes that the issue is with a particular call in OpenURI. Bringing down. At 008, Seth Vargo begins work on correcting the bug with Berkshelf 2. At 009, Jay Timmerman pointed at a error that we had run across when we were doing some testing. And at 011, Seth Vargo makes note that this is actually a bug in Ruby. It is not a bug in the Berkshelf code per se. At 020, Seth Vargo opens a pull request which monkey patches Ruby to fix this. And at 041, Jamie Windsor releases Berkshelf 2.0.18 to fix the problem. For those that were involved, is the timeline correct? Am I missing anything of major importance? Hearing nothing, I'm going to go ahead and continue on.
What time zone is this in?
The times are all in UTC.
All right.
So the root cause was that Ruby has a bug in the OpenURI library that doesn't handle the redirect from HTTP to HTTPS properly. One might also argue that the root cause was that we turned on Supermarket. But I guess...
Just to clarify, like, that's true. The bug is that it wouldn't direct any protocol. So it would not direct SSL to non-SSL either. And it would not direct across ports either.
Okay.
Right, and the other part of it is that in the Supermarket infrastructure, we redirect all HTTP to HTTPS.
Okay, so
like that was a decision we made to ensure that we were all, happily secure with HTTPS on that.
Okay.
I think it's worth noting that nobody on the Berkshelf development team currently tests Berkshelf 2 against anything that we create. So these issues are going to continue to pop up unless it's officially deprecated or unless some automated testing goes in for integration tests against future changes like this.
Okay. So Jamie, let's actually hit that on the corrective action steps, because that's super important to cover.
Sure.
Okay, so the redirect period. And as part of this, we're also going to make note that this is a result of a secure by default policy. Our goal is to use HTTPS by default everywhere and enforce it by default everywhere. Okay, so stabilization steps so that we can talk a little bit about what we actually did to fix this. We allowed cookbooks.opscode.com to be served via HTTP. We, as in the collective we, released Berkshelf version 2.0.18. And Adam advised users in IRC to update their sources for Berkshelf to use the HTTPS version of Supermarket. The impact of this, okay, so timing out, were there any other stabilization steps we took? It doesn't sound like it. So impact, users that use Berkshelf version 2.x were unable to use the cookbooks.opscode.com until a new version was released. This went on for about 5.5 hours. And in concept is still going on for anyone that has not updated to the latest version of the if you're running version 2. So I guess the first question or first point is Berkshelf v2 has been deprecated, and there are I guess so. From a chef standpoint, ideally we don't want to break compatibility whenever possible. The question is there an easy way for us to test these kinds of things? I was under the impression from talking with Joshua yesterday that he was having a difficult time getting it installed. My worry is if I add it to like Travis, that it's going to significantly slow down builds.
Chris?
Well, I didn't have all the things required to install it. Like the system I was using to install Berkshelf 2 didn't have libxml2 and libxslt, and then I didn't have GCC and stuff. So I mean that was all things I resolved, but it was after we had people who were in the IRC channel. We had them test, and they were able to confirm that it was working again.
Okay. Go ahead, Jamie.
I was just going to mention that it's no surprise difficult to install it because we haven't really kept up on any of the dependencies. The only reason why that branch continues to exist is because of community improvements. We accept minor changes. That's why it's on 2.0.18 at this point. It's just fixes, so that way people don't need to immediately get off of it right now. So it would be difficult to install, and it would be difficult to test because none of the developers are actively working on it and haven't for a pretty damn long time.
Okay.
But it is not officially deprecated by Chef. I don't believe. Like, there's nowhere that says that. But if you talk to any of the guys that are working on it, that's the messaging that we're giving, which is we're not supporting this.
Yeah, it kind of falls into that weird, because it's not a commercial product. It's not like there's that defined level of support per se.
Yeah, so that should be an open question to whoever wants to make that decision. But I suggest officially deprecating it.
Okay. Let me click a thing so that it'll actually bounce between people. So I guess the question, and maybe this is more for Seth and Joshua, is it realistic? Should we be adding integration testing as part of our Travis builds for Supermarket to this?
So from my perspective, like, it depends on how high you want to go. I don't know if you can do this at the Travis layer, but like it would be nice to install ChefDK, add a sample Berks file that has like apt, yum, and a couple other, popular cookbooks. Do like
the GitLab cookbook is a pretty good one because it has a fairly complicated graph for like it's an app stack, right? So it's got several dependencies.
Yeah, so like some type of app cookbook, run Berks install, and like make sure that everything is working appropriately. On the flip side, like Jamie already said, like we're trying to deprecate Berkshelf 2 as much as possible. It has a number of bugs, which is a great reason not to use it, but also like there's some speed and dependency issues. We also understand that some people are stuck on it. I don't really see a reason to add integration testing for Berkshelf 2. I think it'd be nice to have whatever ChefDK comes with as part of that test suite. That way, we're also somewhat integration testing ChefDK at that point, which you could argue is like a good or a bad thing, but it would be nice just to make sure that the things are working, a minimum viable use case.
Okay.
I just worry about the speed of doing that, and like we want to be able to
Yeah.
iterate quickly, and
Yeah, like if the thing is stand up a supermarket that can serve up the universe for the Berks API, that's not really a trivial thing to do. It takes a long time to do that because installing like all the gems with bundler and getting a Postgres database, etc. up is, just adds to that testing harness.
Well,
and
you can just use Packer and generate. This is an implementation detail, but that's
Yeah.
not real. Like you can pre-bake a thing that would make it pretty quick.
yeah, the problem becomes also like having a copy of production data. So
Yeah.
okay, so it sounds like if we're making changes, what I think the corrective action here is we need to come up with a better testing plan for when we're going to make large changes to the community site API. I honestly, I think we're done with them. So like the likelihood that this is going to come up again is slim. Now, of course, my friend Murphy says that.
You also just said that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Now it's going to happen.
Exactly. My friend Murphy says that it's going to happen now. So, and I guess that's true because at some point it is going to happen. At some point we are going to want to turn off HTTPS. So, or I'm sorry, HTTP completely. Rather force everything to upgrade to HTTP. So I think the corrective action is that I make note in the README for supermarket, or really for the supermarket cookbook. This way we remember to do it, because that was, I think, also an interesting part. I never actually used Berkshelf 2. So let me just kind of glance over here at IRC and see if there are any questions. I'm not seeing anybody, so please mention me in IRC if you were watching this and have questions. I think the other thing that we should have done a little bit better is this was a big enough change that maybe more an announcement on the status page that we were starting maintenance, and maybe also notifying the room that when things happen on status.opscode.com. Does that seem like a reasonable corrective action that the IRC room should have been notified that this was changing? And if that's the case, then how does that happen, I guess?
I think that's great. I'd love to have a central place to point people to service outages.
Well, that we actually already do, and I highly suggest people follow on Twitter opscode status, and if not on Twitter, follow status.opscode.com on Tumblr, because that's where any of our status updates are going to go, and we're pretty diligent about making sure someone updates that very quickly as we're starting an incident. But is the general feeling that the room should have been notified? Maybe I'm trying to get just a general feel for what types of corrective actions we should take, because I think at this point we've solved the problem, and I don't know outside of additional testing how we would have better addressed it. Okay.
I personally think it was addressed fine. He posted to the status page and in the chat, so Those are
Okay.
the places that I look, or Twitter, right? So, but this is my opinion. I don't know what other people are looking for.
Okay. Well, I will take it on because I think that it's something that should happen. So post updates to status.getchef.com to IRC. All right. Well, I think unless there are any other questions, concerns, we can call this postmortem done. My plan is to write this up in the next day or so. It probably won't be until Thursday morning, sadly, because I will be on a plane all day tomorrow. But I will have an update out soon on the blog. So thank you, everybody, for watching and joining. And as part of that postmortem, we will also, or the postmortem post on the blog, we will include a link to this video as well. Thank you, everyone.